How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting. Welcome back to Higurashi. Hi. It's been a bit. Now, for you, this week mostly went normally. Just didn't have something on Wednesday. Nothing big, right? I've been gone all week. I was doing a training. I'm sore. I'm tired. But I also need to stay on top of things. So I'm here to record and try and get an edge on what's coming, because this week is where I start, working during the day. Now, previously, what I would do is, because I worked night shift, is I would work my 4 days. I'd sleep all day, work all night, and then come the weekend, I didn't want to flip around my schedule a whole lot because that can be really unhealthy and just difficult to do. So, while I would try and do stuff during the day, and I got a sneeze coming, but while I was trying to do stuff during the day, mostly I slept during the day and I would be awake all night. So it provided a good opportunity for me to record. So I would just record everything in like a 2-day span and process and edit it as much as I could, touching it up as I went along the way in the week. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All well and good. So that kind of worked. It worked in the sense that I always had time to record. So it was very effective. But it was really hard on my health. Third shift turned out to be a very poor thing for me. I did it for 16 months. It wasn't like it was a bad job at all. It was just a bad fit for my life, because whilst it was functional, it basically made me a non-existent ghost to my friends and family. I didn't like that, so I changed it up. I actually found a better job, and it pays more in its days. It's also partially working from home and might be able to be full-time remote in maybe a year or two. That's cool, but I'm still expected to work during the day. That means I'm sleeping at night again. That means I don't have unlimited time on the weekends to just record videos. So I'm going to have to switch back to doing it at night. But now that's me doing a recording in the evenings before I go to work. And for most series I do, that shouldn't be a problem. I get a little nervous when it's coming to, trails in the sky, because those recording sessions tend to be 2.5, 3 hours long. It's like, I don't know about that. We're going to have to see. What I might try to do is record the Trails series on my weekends, maybe Saturday evenings. If I can always make Trails or whatever my bigger recording sessions are on Saturday nights where I can sleep in the morning, that might be the best bet I've got. So I'm kind of leaning towards that if I can make it work. But that comes with its own challenges, because it means I can't slack on any other day, or else I'm going to fall behind. So we'll see how this all plays out. Also, heads up, as you kind of have an example of, I picked up a cold. I had to leave town for training. I got a cold. You travel is inevitable. So I'm going to be sniffly. I'm going to be trying to not be disruptive. But there's another reason why I might not make this video very long, because the symptoms could flare up. I've taken medicine, but who knows how long that's going to last. And I don't want to be hacking and coughing in the video. And so we'll see. But it also might mean this week's videos might be a little floundery. I'm going to try, though. I'm going to do what I can. So let's jump into it. It's been a bit for me. But last time we were here, we saw Shion went to the school, saw how far Keiichi's struggling, decided to take out her frustration and confusion on Satoko, which is just a great way to endear yourself. And even afterwards, she started to wish that in order to have Satoshi to herself, she started to wish that the ant would be removed and that Satoko would vanish, because then she could be with Satoshi, and she's convinced that he'd be happy. I feel like she has a very skewed view of what would make Satoshi happy, considering how he very clearly really cares about Satoko. But what do they say? Love is blind. And she has no experience. She's still pretty young. And it's also she's very human. Like most of the characters in these series, as you get to know them, they really come across as very, very human. Mostly. It feels like when they're antagonistic or when they're not a main character, they tend to be psycho, but at their core, they're very human. And so Shion is, but she's a very flawed human. I can see why this is such a polarizing character, but all in all, I'm still interested to see how the story's going to go, but it feels like Watanagashi is like here. So I think that's what we're kicking into now. So let's see how things shake out. Again, we'll see. This might be a shorter episode. If so, I apologize, but I'm kind of playing things by ear, and I'm just not feeling super great, so we're going to just have to go with the best we can. All right, let's go. If I'm going to be limited on my time and energy, like, we might as well get started. The day of the Watanagashi festival. Now, remember, he asked Shion, like, hey, go take Satoko to the fair. She needs a day off, and I can't be there. And we know how that was an echo of what Keiichi says in Chapter 3. So, June 20th, 1982, 1:40 p.m. What was I doing today? Nothing in particular. Nothing at all. I just wanted to play hooky. I woke up in the afternoon. I ate instant food and lunch while watching boring TV programs. I had a light headache, so I lay down on the sofa. I wouldn't wake up again if I went to sleep. Whatever. I decided to sleep. I'd already told Sis that Satoshi-kun had asked her to look after Satoko. I didn't have to do anything myself. I fell asleep, though my head was aching a little bit. That would be all I'd have to deal with. I have a feeling you're about to convince yourself to do something stupid. June 20th, 1982, 5:02 p.m. The aunt believed that all the villagers frowned upon her because she and her brother-in-law and his wife were pro-dam activists. She surely experienced some of the fallout during the time of the dispute. But people had stopped looking coldly upon her, even though she assumed otherwise. She was paranoid, believing all the villagers hated her. And so she decided to hate them back. Her attitude, of course, begat hatred from the villagers. And the situation became exactly the way she thought it was from the start. What came first, this poor relationship with the neighbors, or her husband's affair? She didn't know herself. Her husband claimed that he got a lover because he was fed up with her attitude. She, in turn, claimed that the relationship with the neighbors went sour because of her husband had damaged their reputation. Only Satoshi was aware that both happened at almost the same time. Their quarrels had become a daily routine now. When the husband came home late, the wife would shout at him at the entrance. Satoshi wondered why they didn't get a divorce, their marriage being as rotten as it was. But he secretly knew the reason for that too. It was the fortune his parents had left. His aunt had hidden their bank book and stamp and never allowed her husband to access them. So her husband would search the house for them. She'd find out he'd stole some money from her purse. This would cause yet another fight. Satoshi had never been aware that his parents had that much money when they were alive. After their death, however, one of his relatives told him. He was informed that his parents had a large sum of money in some bank account. Satoshi couldn't understand why they had that kind of money because his family had been, as far as he knew, poor. It was because of the dam project. His parents probably got the money in return for their cooperation with the government. Now, I don't know if that's true, though, because the idea being, unless they were given an unofficial consulting fee, which is basically bribery, they wouldn't be paid out unless they sold their land to the government. That would mean that whether the dam went through or not, they shouldn't have had that money yet. The other thing to think about, though, is that maybe it's a promise where they say, we'll take the money, and it's contingent that they will leave when the government says it's time to leave. So, like, they could take the money, ostensibly they could take the money, and then when the dam project's canceled, they just kind of get to keep it. But again, that feels very unlikely. I think this might be a clue, because it doesn't quite make sense that they would have a large sum of money given to them by the government without them having to leave their property and just give it to the government, that the government would, like, own this house. Like, it'd be a bummer because they'd own a house that now is empty and that they're never going to, like, do anything with, and so they probably just put it back on the market. But, like, it doesn't make sense that the government would hand them a bunch of money and expect them to stay. That's just very strange. So, I think this money's dirty. I think this money could be tied more to maybe the, what do you call it, the Yakuza side of things. Maybe that's what it is. Also, maybe this money is one of the motivations for why they were targeted. I'm not sure what the ends might be, but maybe they stole the money. Like, if it was embezzled from the family, that could explain why they were selected to be just, like, eliminated as enemies of the village. Because on one hand, they look like they're enemies because of the dam project, but on the other hand, internally, the family who, like, if the conspiracy idea is right, the family could see this as a like statement of what happens if you break faith. Break faith with this gosh darn it, I know their names. Mion and Shion. I just said the name. Sonozaki. Gosh darn it. What is wrong with me? I think I'm going to blame that on the cold because I literally just said the name and then it was just gone. Sonozakis. So, like, you don't break faith with the Sonozakis. And it was a message internally and externally. Like, imagine they got discovered funneling the money a couple years ago. And then the first thing they want to do is like, oh, let's go take them out. But then they say, wait, it would look bad if we started eliminating villagers for no reason. And maybe this is cooked into an existing plan, or is the genesis of the plan to start using Watanagashi as a way to eliminate inconveniences with the family business. And it's a way that they could start attacking because like up until that point, the whole idea would be like you can't attack, basically anyone from Hinamizawa has to be protected no matter how much you like or don't like them, because if they start dying, it makes the family look bad. But if it starts being a curse of the Watanagashi festival, then they could start eliminating the people who are inconvenient to them, and it not break like the veneer that like, oh, support the family, you'll be protected. It's almost like a loophole. So that's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing it's embezzled money from the family. The family can't just like take that money back, but they can make them pay the price as a message to other people who are in the know. They had to strive to get more villagers on their side, provided information to them and whatnot. Okay, that's another one. But again, that still feels like government bribery. I feel like that's possible, but I don't know. I like my theory better. The money was probably compensation for their efforts. His aunt and uncle never had any intention to adopt them until they'd heard about the money. After someone from some financial institution revealed its existence, they appeared to adopt Satoko and Satoshi. The couple would fight every day. Eventually, Satoshi's uncle started spending more time in his mistress's home. He realized he had no reason to return to his own home, because he'd just end up in a fight with his wife if he did. When he stopped coming home, Satoshi felt relieved. Neither their uncle nor their aunt treated the two siblings very well. Satoshi's aunt wouldn't have to vent her frustration upon them. The reason the couple fought was the corrupted relationship, so if they were separated, there wouldn't be any more fights. Satoshi had thought that at first. No, unfortunately, it got worse. But even after they separated, his aunt still had a short temper. Another woman had stolen her husband. The villagers must have been talking behind her back. Probably, but what can you do? It was mortifyingly embarrassing. Since she lost an opponent to fight, Satoshi's aunt directed her hatred toward the siblings. Satoshi had been observing her. He learned when she would get upset and how to avoid her attention. He managed to get by without upsetting her by turning a keen eye to her behavior and avoiding conflict. But Satoko couldn't do that. She hated her aunt and didn't even try to hide it. Satoshi told her to behave in their aunt's presence, but her eyes were always filled with hatred. Satoshi strived to reduce the conflict between them as much as possible. He stepped in to mend their relationship. It was a heavy burden for him, though, because he was still just a boy. He bore so much. He covered for his little sister by lying and by maneuvering. He tried to maintain a tangible sense of peace. But he couldn't do that forever. The relationship between Satoko and her aunt had already spiraled out of control. Satoshi found something in the trash. It probably wasn't a legitimate piece of trash for place for trash disposal. If it was, sanitation workers would come and pick it up. He passed by the street all the time, and he noticed when there were new things dumped there, so he kinda did the same thing that Rena does. He'd found a plain-looking desk, the kind likely to be seen in offices. Somebody must have dumped it within the past few days. His aunt liked to bring unusable trash home. Kind of interesting. So we have a bit of that kind of a problem right now, because it's something I've always wanted to do, but it's hard for me to find the time. But now with the new job, it's easier. I try and pay attention to estate sales. Estate sales are where they just need to basically get empty a house as quickly as possible. When they do that, they often will mark everything down really cheap. It's basically like a super garage sale. What's really interesting is it tends to be full of furniture they're trying to get rid of, because they're either moving into like a home or a furnished home or overseas or whatever. Like basically just a situation where they have no need to bring anything with them. So it's a great way to get furniture at a good price. And it tends to be a place where you can get good furniture, not just crappy furniture. So I happened to find one, went on the day it was open, and found a nice kitchen table. Because we have a very crappy one we were given for free back when, oh gosh, it must have been 15 years ago now, like college days. And we just didn't have any better option and didn't want to spend $3,000 on a table. So when I went to this estate, found a pretty solid, like nice table with a couple chairs for like, I think I bought it for $50, but it's like a decent quality table. Like it looks good. It's made of solid materials. So yeah, like we have a new table and it's fantastic, but we now have the old table and I'm trying to figure out how to best get rid of the thing. I'm probably going to end up taking it to the dump because it's functional. It's a good table for if you just need something that works, but it looks horrifically ugly and it's just old. Again, it was the kind of thing you get for free in college and you take because you got nothing better. But now I don't know what to do with the thing and it's taking up a lot of space, so I need to get rid of it. Anyway, sorry, weird tangent. She had Satoshi bring a chest home a few days ago. If you told her about the desk, she'd want it. His aunt hated to find bugs and garbage in the drawers, so she'd always open them to check before carrying things home. Satoshi opened all the drawers, all of which were empty. After that, he turned around and walked about 5 steps. He was standing in a knee-high bush. There he laid something he'd been carrying all the time until today. It had been very hard to find unless you specifically knew it was there to begin with. Looking satisfied, Satoshi looked around for some landmarks to remember the place by. This is sounding very familiar. June 20th, 1982, 5:51 p.m.
Hey, 親父! 今年も来たね。また根こそぎかっさらってくから覚悟しときなよ。
いや園崎のお嬢ちゃんは今年も元気がいいな。あ、そっちの子は新顔かい？
この子はね、竜宮レナ。
Right, it's her first year.
こう見えてても結構やるよ。
そんなことないよ。よろしくお願いしますね。
おう、こっちこそよろしくな。今年もいろいろ景品を持ってきたんだぜ。もちろん真剣勝負だ。根こそぎ持ってけるもんなら持ってけってんだ。
Alright.
レナは可愛いものには目がないのですよ。
あのぬいぐるみとそっちのぬいぐるみはレナの好みだね。
It's really kind of weird seeing like this, just because like it's so familiar and yet it's not the same.
かわいいね。ほぼ持ち帰り。
Yep, she's Rena still.
ダメだよ。まだ準備中だよ。おい。
レナ、ダメ。まだ準備中だってさ。ちゃんと回転したら根こそぎさらってやりな。
もうダメだよ。レナのものなんだよ。お持ち帰り。
You gotta win it. Rena lost her marbles over stuffed animals. Everybody laughed. Everybody except Satoko. She was staying by herself, some distance from the crowd. Her eyes looked dull.
なんなんですの、リカ。
Rika walked up to Satoko, smiling ear to ear in an effort to cheer her up.
今日は何も考えなくていいのですよ。いっぱい楽しく過ごしましょうなのです。
Again, Rika knows. She knew now. That's an interesting insight to have. I hadn't even thought about that. She knows what's about to happen. Whether it's because she's like a psychic who has visions of the future, like actually avatar of whatever his name is, the spirit. Gosh darn it, my brain. I feel bad. Like I feel like I'm half awake right now, and it's because I feel sick. Ugh, I'm so sorry. I hope this isn't boring to watch. But think about it. She knows. She knows because she identified it. I don't know if she knows that Satoshi specifically will get vanished, but she knows the ant's going. She knows that. And she might have a guess that Satoshi's leaving because Satoko's here. Because maybe originally Satoko was going to be the one that gets vanished, but it got shifted to Satoshi because of his actions. So she knows. She knows what's about to happen. That's interesting. What are you up to, Rika? Satoko looked down. Even if she got to have fun today, her circumstances at home wouldn't change.
さとこ、意地悪なおばさんは、今日はお祭りには来ませんですよ。
Yeah.
そんなことは分かってますわ。
なら、いっぱい笑って、いっぱい楽しくなるのですよ。ニパー。
Nipa.
ニパ
Come on. Nipa. Give
ー。
in.
ニパー。
Give in.
あいにくですけど、そういう気分になれませんの。申し訳ございませんけど、放っておいてくださいませ。
No, you cannot resist these powers.
どうして、さとこは笑いませんですか？
Satoko sulkily glimpsed at Rika. She gave her a look. A thought, and a look as though she wanted to say that Rika should know the reason. Even if she could have fun today, nothing would change between her and her evil aunt. Yeah, that's true. It's unfortunate because, like, when you know you're facing something really dire, like a bad situation, and the one thing you desperately need is a distraction, unfortunately, as you try to relax, your brain often won't let you. It'll just jump back and back and back to what you know is coming, and it won't even let you get that rest and that de-stress that you desperately need, that you know you might need, but psychologically, your brain won't let it go. No matter how fun the festival was, once she went home, her aunt would be there. The aunt would find something wrong with Satoko, get mad, and shout at her so loudly the neighbors would hear. How could she have fun even just for today while knowing all that? Satoko didn't say that out loud, but her eyes betrayed her emotions to Rika.
ではさとこの辛いのが今日でおしまいになるなら、
Again, she knows.
さとこは笑ってくれますですか？
She knows. Satoko gasped. She thought that Rika might do something to help. But soon after, she realized that Rika was just trying to comfort her. Could her suffering end today? Because of Rika? How? Satoko knew there was really nothing Rika could do. And so, after just one moment of freedom, Satoko fell into depression again.
リカ、くだらない気休めは聞きたくないですわ。
It's not false, though. She knows. But, unfortunately, I think if you ask Satoko after this, was the trade-off of not having her aunt around worth losing Satoshi? I'm not sure how she would answer that. She certainly seems a lot happier overall after her aunt is gone. But she also desperately misses Satoshi. I think part of the problem is that it seemed like Satoshi just abandoned her. If he died and they found his corpse, maybe it wouldn't be as bad, but that's awful to say, isn't it? Like, that's terrible. You know, it's insane. Real life kind of intervening here. There's a terrible story that's happened recently. Back kind of close to home where I grew up, there was a triple homicide. Basically, this guy, I imagine he's either insane, was super high, or both. He wrecked his truck by hitting a deer, got it towed, and he was told how much it was going to cost to fix it, and he didn't have that money. He's like a 23-year-old guy. So, he instead takes his firearm, which he has, breaks into a home of an old lady in her 80s, waits until she like sits down to watch TV, and shoots her in the back of the head, like, while she's sitting down. Drags her body to the shed, takes the keys to her car, and tries to drive away. When the car runs out of gas, or starting to run out of gas, he drives along the road until he finds another car that's been parked next to a hiking trail. He hikes down the trail, finds the two women who have gone on a hike together, shoots them and stabs them, and steals their car, and tries to make it through Colorado. Gets caught by the police and arrested. And he confesses that his motivation was, quote, I think something along the lines of, I needed to do it because he needed the cars to get home. And what's insane is that one of the three victims was actually a family member of a friend of mine. And so I found out about this yesterday when he came to our Discord group, like with my college friends, and basically vented to us about the whole situation. And it's like one of those things that just sounds like, it doesn't sound real because it's insane, right? It feels like something you'd have out of like a Higurashi story or something, but it actually happened. Thankfully, the guy was such an idiot and left so much evidence behind and confessed, and like when he was arrested, he's gonna get justice. Something's gonna happen to him. But what a world we live in, right?
Satoko.
Rika's voice was clearer than Satoko had ever heard before. It's that second voice! Fetch me! I'm sorry, I went on such a tangent, but it's been on my mind all day. And now we got the true Rika voice there, or at least the second form. It's poking out.
もう決まっていることなのです。
Yes, it is. June 20th, 1982, 8:11 p.m. So what does Satoko think of that when she says, hey, it's already been decided, and it actually happens? Satoshi snuck out the window after supper. He heard the distant ruckus of the festival. The festival would end at 9 p.m. After the Watanagashi ceremony, there was going to be a raffle drawing. So there were two types of people, Hinamizawa. The people who would go to the home for dinner, and the ones who would stay until the raffle was over. Either relaxing at home or still at the festival. There were only those two patterns. On top of that, there weren't any neighbors in the vicinity of Satoshi's house. As a result, he found nobody on the streets. On the night, the small village seemed especially desolate. Satoshi knew it was going to be like this, but he would keep worrying until he saw it for himself. He was barefoot, but starting to run without hesitation. He felt as though he had become a wild animal running on his bare feet. He got the impression he could run faster than usual. It really feels like what happened with... This is the stuff that starts making me actually doubt it, because again, like, this stuff's really weird. Like, the change that people have, and this kind of like enhancement that seems to come over these people when they commit to like follow through with something like this. Not only was his running ability, his vision, his hearing, his sense of smell, all his senses were keener, including his sixth sense. Again, I think my running theory that's grounded in truth is that there's something in the mountains here that's specific. Like, I could see like some kind of chemical that makes people like ignore pain and enhances their senses. That could explain why you'd run faster and longer than you normally would, because you wouldn't feel, or you'd be inoculated to the pain that your muscles send you, that they're getting damaged and you're tired. So you'd run farther and push yourself harder, but then you'd be horrifically exhausted and possibly injured just from pushing yourself too hard. It also could give you an euphoria where it also like makes you more likely to be aggressive. And then the serum in chapter 1 was a condensed version of that. Again, I'm restating again because I think I'm onto something there. But why does he only get exposed to it here? Like what did he do differently that would expose him besides like go into the woods? Maybe that's the ticket then. I was thinking some kind of mushroom or something, but maybe when he's out in the woods or digging the ground. Oh, could it be the soil? Because Keiichi seemed to get dosed with it when he started digging the grave. And maybe that's a part of why it kind of seems to coincide with these deaths, because usually people push to the point where they would be willing to dig a grave might be able to get contaminated by it. Okay, maybe I'm onto something there. He could almost sense the presence of people in the distance. If only when crouched like an animal. It felt strange, as though he'd stepped into another world. He felt he'd been feeling tense and anxious until today, battling with his own fear. But now he felt as though he had a metamorphosis into a different person. June 20th, 1982, 8:37 p.m.
それではお楽しみ抽選会の説明をこれより始めますので、どうぞ皆さん櫓の周りにお集まりくださいな。
I clicked early, but he's saying gather on the altar. The festival had reached its climax. The raffle is going to start. Both the women who were dancing and those who were waiting for the raffle gathered around the altar. This was the first time they'd held a raffle. The planning committee decided to hold one from this year onward to attract more people to the festival. At first, the prizes were things the committee members could donate, but Oryu, not appreciating how pathetic they looked, had thrown them away. Oryu had taken the initiative and bought a brand new TV, a washing machine, a cooling fan, other such things for the raffle. Fetch me! That's some big money back then. The committee wanted to keep it small initially, but it turned out big thanks to her. Oryu was upset because the committee members weren't enthusiastic enough in her opinion. Some of the members thought it would be very difficult to prepare prizes of equal value the following year, so this might be the very first and last raffle.
お嬢さんのおかげで本当なすんばらしい商品になったね。
It's impressive she's actually here.
だいぶかかったんじゃないの？
And that's the mayor.
運営費で立て替えするよ。
すったら。んな程度で立て替えなんてアホらしい。
Yeah, she's saying like the funds for the city and the funds for the Sonozakis are basically the same. So what's the point?
銭金の問題じゃないんね。たく。
まあまあそう言わないで。お嬢さんのおかげでできた抽選会なんだから。
こんな私一人でどうにかすりゃええんちゅう。パホクさ。
The mayor, Kimiyoshi, was having a tough time pacifying Oreo. All of a sudden, one of the committee members burst into the tent in a rush. He looked upset, so Kimiyoshi assumed that somebody probably got hurt in an accident.
どうしたの牧野さん。そんなに息を弾ませたら心臓が破りっちゃうよ。
If you were having a heart attack, he wouldn't be bursting into the tent. He'd be on the floor. Kimiyoshi made a joke to calm him down. Makino, however, still looked tense. He whispered something to Kimiyoshi. Even without hearing the exchange between Makino and Kimiyoshi, it was plain as day there was bad news.
お嬢さん、悪い話なんだけどいいかい？
Kimiyoshi, accompanied by Makino, moved to Orio's side and spoke in a very serious tone. Kimiyoshi whispered to her the exact same words Makino told him.
いやはや、参ったよな。
参るも参らんもなんね。
Is about it? Maybe this is about Satoshi, what he's doing.
3度あっちゃんは4度あるっちゅうこっちゃな。
お嬢さん、そりゃ笑えないや。
面白い話でもな。
It's not
でもない
funny.
や。
That doesn't mean it's not true, right?
面倒が増えただけっちゃね。
警察が今身元を調べてるらしい。
Oh, okay.
どうも相当顔面をやられてるらしくて、身元の特定が難しそうなんだと。
Interesting. So this is implying that that it happened without Satoshi there. Maybe he wasn't involved. He might have been planning it to do it, but it was part of the original plan. So the family made it happen. He's gonna be very confused.
顔がわからんでも、おおよその想像はつくっちゃな。
え？心当たりがあるのかい？
Oreo glared at Kimiyoshi and then started chuckling.
バーカが、Watanagashiの祭りにも顔を見せん。不信心者に決まっとろうがね。
Satoshi.
ちゃんとお社様を敬って祭りに来ちょるんは。そんな目には合わなんとよ。
Interesting. So she's trying to pin it on him, maybe. Oreo kept laughing. Kimiyoshi and Makino didn't know how to react to that. June 20th, 1982, 9:04 p.m. Hey!
しかし
Kumagi Kumagai. I think he's never had a Sprite before, has he? And hang on. Oh, I hate colds.
こりゃ無残なもんっすね。
クマちゃん、死に方っていうのは本人が望んだものでない限り、どんなでも無残なもんです。
Interesting. Every death is merciless unless the dead wished for it, but how do you determine that? Maybe you determine it. Maybe that's a term to refer to, like, justice, like an execution of a murderer. It's like the dead crying out for, like, vengeance.
お悔やみ申し上げちゃいますよ。そっちどう？ポッケの中身とか個人が特定できそうなものは？
So it is her body in the middle of the woods, probably coming back from the festival. So it does sound like Satoshi might have been involved here. The forensic investigators shook their heads.
サンダル履きで服装もラフ。近くにお住まいの方でしょうね。服装の特徴から周辺に聞き込みをすればすぐに割れそうっすね。
それしかないな。課長からこの山一口さしてかかりそうだからって脅されてます。
It's Watanagashi after all.
その辺注意してくださいよ。
了解っす。
Kumagai gathered some officers and gave them directions.
入江先生が到着しました。先生、あそこです。
Oh boy, he's also the forensics expert. A young doctor got out of his car and headed to the victim's direction.
どうも、遅れて申し訳ありません。抽選会の手伝いの最中だったもので。
先生、今日の祭りでだいぶ飲んでたでしょう。アルコール本当に抜けてます？後で風船でも膨らましてもらっちゃおうかな。
Not really the time, Oishi.
ご安心を。運転はスタッフに代わってもらってますので。
そりゃ卒がない。おい、先生通してあげて。
There was an area cordoned off with blue plastic sheets. An officer rolled the sheet and let Oishi and Ayuri pass. The forensics people were taking photos from many different angles. The blood splatter on the body and the blade sandals were left untouched. Marked with chalk and indicated with small alphabetized plates. Wait, how do they mark with chalk if they're in the forest? I feel like chalk doesn't trace on the ground very well.
こういうものは見慣れませんね。
Ayuri took out a handkerchief and covered his nose.
匂いがダメな時は口呼吸にするんですよ。まあ、こういう匂いは目でも嗅げちゃうかな。ね。
Does that mean like your eyes burn? The body appeared to be in the middle-aged woman, soaked in blood. It looked like the middle-aged woman because of the hair and what she was wearing. The reason why no one could be certain of the middle-aged woman was because the face was completely pulverized.
ひどい。
十中八九怨恨の線でしょうな。血痕とサンダル裏から見てここで殺したのは間違いないでしょう。でも見ての通りここは人通りが少ないと言ったって往来のど真ん中です。ここで頭部がひしゃげるまで殴り続けたってのはちょいとまともな話じゃないですからね。でね、ほら腕とか見てみてください。
Defensive wounds, I'm guessing. Oishi put on latex gloves and lifted the corpse's arm.
腕は綺麗なもんでしょう。
Oh, no defensive wounds.
それはつまり腕で防いだとか抵抗したとかそういう痕跡がないという意味ですね。
That's very clean. Too clean.
さすが高学歴。仏さんはおそらく最初の一撃で脳震盪かなんかで気絶したんじゃないかと思うんです。
Well, you can already tell this went a lot better than Satoshi, than Keiichi's try.
で、星は確実に殺した手応えを得るためにさらに打撃を加えた。さらに言えば、仏さんはその時、うつ伏せに倒れたように思うんですよね。ねえ？服の汚れ具合からの勘ですが。
遺体は仰向けですね。
星は後頭部を散々潰して、明らかに頭蓋骨が砕けてる手応えを得ているにもかかわらず、わざわざ顔面を潰してるんじゃないかと思うんですよ。
That is definitely an act of vengeance, really, because even people who like plan and coordinate a murder to do it in cold blood often struggle to see the face of the person they used to know. It's very common for murderers to cover the face of the dead or try to hide the body somehow. In fact, like you talk about people like, chopping up their remains and trying to dispose of them, that actually is seen as a cold calculation because it feels like most people would actually struggle to do that in practicality. When people, even if people plan a murder, they might have intended to do something like that, but often they can't follow through with it because there's still a part of them that's human and just can't stand, like, it becomes like too much. But a violent crime like this, where they go out of their way to basically destroy the person, and specifically their face, that's an act of malice, maybe even self-defense kind of idea, or like that's how they perceive it. So it tracks. Satoshi would be a good choice for the culprit. We know he's motivated, but at the same time, it all feels too orchestrated, and it makes me wonder if it actually was him. Alright, looked like he was gonna throw up, both because of the putrid smell and Oishi's reasoning.
遺体の顔面を殴るってのは、私の経験じゃかなり怨恨の線が強いです。それもだいぶ濃厚な、濃密なね。
Yeah.
ってことはつまり、
Someone they know.
星は 仏のかなり近辺にいるのは間違いないかと。
私を呼んだのが救命活動ではないということは
Yeah,
よくわかりました。
clearly.
先生、この人が誰かわかりますかね？わかれば聞き込みの手間がだいぶ省けるんですがね。
Irie looked at the body once again. He looked away quickly and thought. Then after a while, Irie left the investigation area without saying anything.
すみません。私にはわかりかねます。
本当に？
He's like, I don't know if I believe you. Oishi smirked and looked into Irie's eyes, as though Irie were hiding something.
別に隠してなんかいません。
先生もアルコールがまだ抜けきってないだけですよ。
Although it's interesting because he's got to remember at this point that Irie coming down from the mountain was the tip-off to finding the kid up there. So he must not trust Dr. Irie at all anymore because Dr. Irie could have reported the kid but didn't.
頭が冴えたら思い出すかもしれません。思い出したら教えてくださいね。
Oishi tapped the Irie on the back. The doctor, saying he wanted some fresh air, left the scene. Kumagi returned.
おいさん、課長から無線です。1号車の無線っす。
Right. This is where they get
入江の
shackled.
先生、ごまかしたな。
Yeah.
いえ、仏の聞き込み急いでください。ほぼ間違いなくこの近くにお住まいです。
June 20th, 1982, 9:39 p.m.
おいさん、連れてきました。
どうもどうも。こんな夜更けに申し訳ありませんね。明日も学校なのに本当に申し訳ないです。
いえ、
Interesting.
お父さんはどちらへ？
うちの寄付はあまり帰ってきませんので。
おお、いつ頃から？最後に帰ってきたのはいつ？
さあ、義母と喧嘩しているのを聞く限りは、沖宮でどこかのキャバレーの人と同棲してるとかなんとか。最後に会ったのはあまり覚えてないんですけど、先生。
He said I saw him a few weeks ago.
お父さんの連絡先はわかります？
いえ。
キャバレーの人と同居してるって言いましたよね。なんてお店かわかります？
いえ、沖宮のどこかにある。
お父さんの名前は？
北条哲平です。
Oishi signaled Kumagi with his chin and nodded, taking notes.
お父さんとお母さんはあまり仲良くなかったですか？
程度の度合いはわかりませんが、よくはなかったと思います。
率直に聞いて申し訳ないですけど、お母さんに恨みを持っていた人間とか知っていたら教えてほしいんですがね。
Interesting. This is the first time he actually says stepmother. I don't know if that's translated properly or not, but other times he's saying your mother and your father, but now he's saying stepmother.
よくわからないです。
そうですか。じゃあもしも思い出したらでいいので、これ私の名刺です。ここに電話番号ありますので。
はい。
じゃあ後日またいろいろとお話を伺うこともあるかもしれません。
I wonder if this is why they freaked out so much in the first chapter when Keiichi started talking to Oishi, because Oishi talks to Satoshi and I think Satoshi vanishes after this.
もしもお父さんと連絡がつきましたら、沖宮警察署の大石まで至急ご連絡をとお伝えください。くまちゃん、北条さんを自宅まで送ってあげてください。
いえ、一人で帰れますから。
いえ、そんなこと言わずにぜひ送らせてくださいな。お母さんを襲った犯人がまだ近くにいる可能性があるんですよ。あなたもまた狙われない保証なんてないんですからね。
お気遣いありがとうございます。でも本当に結構ですね。
Satoshi tried to reject the offer, but Oishi and Kumagi insisted. In the end, Satoshi was forced to accept. He turned around to leave. when Oishi spoke to him as if remembering something he'd forgotten to say.
北条さん、
はい。
大丈夫ですよ。心配しないでください。犯人はすぐに捕まりますよ。
手がかりとかあるんですか？
ありますよ。
どんなですか？
捜査上の秘密ですよ。
He suspects Satoshi. He's putting pressure on him to see how he reacts. Ordinary people might think Oishi was trying to cheer the poor kid up with a joke.
いえね。人を殺すってのはかなり感情の高ぶるもんなんですよ。そりゃ冷静に殺してみせるロボットみたいなのも。
感情が高ぶると何かわかるんですか？
うん。人は極限まで感情が高ぶるといろいろ体に反応が出ます。発汗とか脱毛とかね。殺人現場に犯人の毛髪が落ちているってことは割とあることなんですよ。まあここは屋外ですからね。現場が絨毯の上ってのとはだいぶ勝手が違いますが。
He's putting the pressure on to see how he reacts.
犯人の毛髪は。
さあね。鑑識の連中がオーレつくんでさっきから行ったり来たりしていろいろ探してます。まだ結果待ちでね。何が出るやら。明日
があるので今夜はもう帰ります。
そうなさってください。クマちゃん、送ってあげてください。
了解っす。
では北条さん、また近いうちに進展があったらお知らせしますよ。北条さんも何か思い出したりしたらぜひ教えてくださいね。憎き母の仇の逮捕に協力してまいりましょう。
Interesting. Well, that was a lot. So it happens. He's acting suspicious. Did he actually do it, though? That's the real question. Sis called me the morning after the Watanagashi festival to tell me the curse had struck again for the 4th time. The victim was the evil aunt who was harassing Satoshi-kun and Satoko. Satoshi-kun's suffering should be over now, since the problem with Satoko was the aunt's relationship to begin with. Maybe I should have celebrated, but I wasn't in the mood for some reason.
犯人ってもう警察は目星をつけてるのかな？
Sis went quiet when I asked that.
さあね、大石の野郎がしつこく聞き込みをして回ってるみたい。犯人は近しい人間に違いないと思ってるようだね。
Being identical twins, Sis and I think very much alike. If I suspected Satoshi-kun of being the murderer, so would she. Because of this, I didn't have to mention the obvious.
サトシ君って祭りの日にアリバイあります？
No.
どうだろう。
I heaved a huge sigh.
バカですね。サトシ君は祭りに来ていた。そういうことでいいじゃないですか。
You're basically saying, give him an alibi, you idiot.
そうだよね。気が利かなくてごめん。
I heaved another sigh. Sis was stupid enough to forget to make an alibi for him, even though the murder of his aunt alone would raise enough suspicion. Oh. Is that what maybe was happening in the 3rd chapter? Playing the same notes to a familiar tune? Were Mion and Rena saying they saw Satoshi at the festival to give him an alibi? Because they said a lot of people saw him, but did they really? We never actually got a confirmation of that. Is that what was happening? Same, like, second verse, same as the first. Huh. Interesting. It also makes me wonder, because I remember they got the crazy eyes and wanted to speak to him, like, kind of alone. I wonder if they got the crazy eyes because they wanted to hear if he'd actually done something, like actually tried to murder somebody. Maybe they wouldn't have tried to kill him. Maybe they just got really intense. I don't know. It's interesting.
じゃあ、やっぱり、サトシが？サトシ君が殺したかどうかが問題じゃないでしょ？ サトシ君が犯行の時間帯にアリバイがあったかが重要なんです。ったく。後で警察がうちに来るみたいだから、来たらサトシは祭りで一緒だったって言うよ。お姉、取ってつけた嘘なんか何の役にも立たないです。何も手を打たなかったなら、今さら小細工しても無駄ってことです。せいぜい正直に喋ってください。お姉は芝居が下手なんだから、変に意識するとかえって勘ぐられますからね。
I mean, she is right about that.
ごめん。
She sounded depressed. I was the one who should have been depressed. Yeah, so maybe that's what happened in chapter 3, is that it wasn't like them being crazy or Keiichi like going insane and actually being in two places at once. It might have been the fact that they kind of put two and two together, and as soon as they realized that it was like history kind of repeated itself, they immediately called each other up and said, "Okay, we're giving him an alibi," and they had coordinated everything to be better than this time. Mion usually handles things well, but she's not good with emergencies. I was less worrying about the future with the Sonosaki family. Mion must have been embarrassed. She soon changed the subject.
シオン、最近はあまりバイトに行けてなかったでしょ。ご検察痛み入ります。おかげさまで。今日は私、夜まで姿を隠してるから、バイトに出られるんじゃない？
Sis had been appearing in public places during the festival preparations and whatnot. As a result, I hadn't been able to pretend to be her. I hadn't been able to work. As someone who had to support myself, it was a bit of a pain. To be honest, I didn't feel like working. But I couldn't afford to be sitting around either. When I locked my apartment door before leaving, the door to the next apartment opened as Kasai appeared.
シオンさん、お出かけですか?
Super subtle, man. You're just staying in the apartment next door?
そんなとこです。お姉が姿を隠してくれるそうなんで、久々にバイトに出ます。笠井、暇だったらおじさんの店まで車を出してもらってもいい？
シオンさん、しばらくはバイトを控えられた方がよろしくはないですか?
Shouldn't you not?
事件のせいで警察は園崎家界隈を監視しているようですし。
So if Mion can't successfully vanish by leaving the house, and they observe that she hasn't left the house, and then she suddenly appears to be working somewhere in town, that's going to be a problem.
あまり姿を表に出さない方がいいのではないかと思います。
お気遣いは嬉しいけど、バイトしないと食費もないわけですし。
Kasai might suggest he donate money to my cause. However, I'd sworn to myself when I started living here that I wouldn't depend on Kasai. While I didn't obey anyone else's rules, I stuck to my own. Kasai could tell that I was adamant in my decision. After repeating himself a couple times as a formal procedure, he decided to give me a ride after all. Come on, I can go a little longer at least. Every time we went to my uncle's store by car, we stopped at this traffic light. I knew it was going to happen again, but it still irritated me. Pedestrians passed in front of the car. I was startled to see one of them look like Satoshi-kun. It was him. Though I had spoken with him on the phone just a couple days ago before, it had been a while since I saw him last.
笠井、悪いけどおじさんに、やっぱ今日のバイトは行けなくなったって伝えてくれる？私、ここで降ります。
え？シオンさん。
Kasai looked taken aback, but I got out of the car regardless. The light turned green. The car behind him honked while Kasai was shouting at me, so he had to start moving. Satoshi-kun was on his bike, but he was going really slowly. I caught up with him in a flash and tapped him on the back. I can't believe she actually ran into him.
沖宮で会うなんて奇遇ですね、サトシ君。
If I talked to him with a smile, he might smile back. So I smiled as brightly as I could.
Mion.
He looked tired as always, but as I could tell, he was trying to smile back. My worries suddenly disappeared. I was certain I looked happy. I was aware that myself, so I must have been obvious to Satoshi-kun.
何があったか知らないけど、ミオンが楽しそうだね。
ええ、楽しいですよ。サトシ君の機嫌が良さそうなので、私も釣られて機嫌が良くなっただけです。
When I teased him, he looked a bit embarrassed. It was like we were back in the good old days. Felt even happier than before.
サトシ君こそ、何か機嫌が良くなるようないいことがありましたか？
いいことなんかないよ。おばさんが亡くなって、警察とかご近所とか、いろいろ大変だよ。
I might have asked something dumb. He seemed to be okay with it, though. He'd frowned a bit at first, but Satoshi-kun continued smiling gently. He looked worn out but satisfied, like he'd accomplished something great. That was the mood I sensed from him. So I was convinced. The one who killed the wicked ant who tormented Satoko was him. I had absolutely no proof, but I knew it intuitively. So I omitted all those questions. I knew Satoshi-kun's motive for killing his aunt and how badly he was driven into a corner. I knew the environment and the situation he was in. And I knew Satoshi-kun's feelings. I knew all of that. So I omitted all those questions. I wanted to celebrate his release from the curse, so I smiled like nothing was different and asked,
サトシ君はどこかへお出かけですか?
Yeah, where is he going? Because that's a good question.
あ、バイトかな?
正解。その前に寄り道なんだけどね。
寄り道?
毎日ちゃんとショーケースにあるのを確認しないと。
The stuff's bare.
なんだか不安で。
The conversation reminded me. The reason he started his part-time job was to buy Satoko a huge teddy bear. It was being sold at the toy store just down the street. I recalled the teddy bear was very expensive. Satoko's birthday was right after the festival. I wasn't sure what day it was though. Wait, didn't he say he had quit his job? Maybe he was going to greet his ex-coworkers and clean out his locker or something? Either way, he'd become completely free very soon. Maybe he hadn't been paid yet, and that's why he wanted to check if they still had the teddy bear. Maybe he was only getting paid on Satoko's birthday? When we got near the toy store, that toy store, he rushed to the display window. He looked relieved that it hadn't been sold yet.
よかったよかった。大丈夫。ちゃんとあるよ。
買えるだけのお金は稼げてるわけですよね。なら予約とかしちゃえばいいのに。
もう。
He probably hadn't thought of that. He really did need someone to look after him. I looked into the display window over his shoulder. The teddy bear wasn't that cute, in my opinion. It looked huge and cramped in the middle of the store showcase. Really, it looked more like a display model than an item for sale.
値札がついてないけど、これ本当に売り物なんですか? これ一体いくらするんです?
売り物なのは確認したから間違いないよ。
値段は? 予算は大丈夫?
大丈夫だよ。ちゃんと確認してあるよ。
He is being oddly evasive about this. Satoshi-kun thought I was teasing him again and pouted like it looked a little sulky.
予算が大丈夫なら予約しちゃいましょう。その方がサトシ君も心の荷が下りていいでしょうしね。
We entered the store and looked for a clerk.
誰もいないのかな。
そりゃ好都合です。サトシ君、お給料日を待たずにぬいぐるみが手に入るかもですね。
Oh boy.
ダメだよミオン。泥棒はいけないよ。
冗談ですって。軽く受け流してほしかったんだけどな。ひょっとして私が盗っ人の真似を平気でできる女だと思ってます？
あ、ごめん。
Satoshi-kun smiled apologetically. Puffed up my cheeks to tease him. If it had really been a while since we last did this. In between those times, many undesirable things had happened that I wanted to forget. But now I felt as though all those things simply vanished into the air around us. I found an old person napping in the back. He must be the clerk, I thought. He looked to be fast asleep.
すみません。お店の方ですよね。
I poked his shoulder, but he didn't look like he was going to wake up. When I did that, a middle-aged woman appeared in an apron, wearing an apron, came in.
おじいちゃん、店番頼んだのにすっかり眠りしちゃって。お客さん来てるってのにもうごめんなさいね。うちのおじいちゃんももうすっかりボケちゃって。
The middle-aged woman shook the old man awake and told him to get back to the living room. She went to the cash register after that.
お恥ずかしいところ見せちゃってごめんなさいね。何かお買い上げ？
あ、買うんじゃなくて予約なんですけど、あのショーケースの中の一番大きいぬいぐるみなんですけど。
あれ？いいの？値札見た？かなり高いけどお小遣い。
あ、はい、ギリギリ足りるはずです。
もうすぐバイトのお給料が入るそうなので、それまで予約したいんですけど。
The woman looked a bit hesitant at first, but she eventually wrote down Satoshi-kun's name and accepted the reservation. Satoshi-kun received the slip of paper.
ね、これでもう誰かに先に買われちゃう心配はもう必要ありません。
うん、 給料がもらえるのはもうすぐなんだけどね。これで安心できる。
He would have kept coming to check every day if I hadn't done this now. He would have spent his time needlessly worrying. Satoshi-kun looked very relieved indeed.
これならもっと早くに予約をしていればよかったな。
Yeah, well.
普通の人は欲しいと思ったら即予約します。そういう思考に至らないサトシ君はちょいと希少です。
It's so very fun to tease him. Those painful days seemed unbelievable now. Satoshi-kun looked like he'd forgotten everything that happened until yesterday.
でも、ありがとう。
Oh. That's a very happy Satoshi. Satoshi-kun held out his hand to touch my head. Was he going to stroke it? I felt my face reddening already. Even before he touched my head, I felt tingly, remembering the last time. I didn't care about the murder or whatever else happened. As long as Satoshi-kun had his freedom, everything would be alright. I'd been content as long as we could live happily from today onward. Oh my gosh, you sweet summer child. I like how she's able to be like, yeah, he murdered someone, but I love him. It's okay. Freaking crazy. But Satoshi-kun's hand never reached my head. I slowly opened my eyes, only to realize the situation had drastically changed. There was 4 men in suits blocking our way. It looked as though they'd been waiting for us to exit the toy store.
どうもどうも。
Oh no. The oldest of the 4 men stepped forward while smirking. I'd never met this man, but it looked like he knew both Mion and Satoshi-kun. He was probably a cop. I ran a search for information in my head, and found some right away.
こんにちは。北条さん、園崎さん。いい雰囲気だったところを邪魔しちゃって実に申し訳ないです。
So he's probably being followed. This must be Kurado Oishi, the cop who investigated a series of mysterious deaths. He thinks the Sonozaki family is behind all the cases. In other words, he's an enemy of the Sonozaki family. He had deep connections with other investigation divisions in the police force and likes to know about business in the area. He annoys the Sonozaki family enough as it is interfering with its Yakuza business, let alone his suspicions of the series of mysterious deaths. Naturally, as the family's successor, he's not a welcome figure to Mion Sonozaki. I tried to imagine how Sis would react.
ありゃあ、大石さんですか。お仕事ご苦労様です。大の大人が4人も揃って、おもちゃ屋さんに何かご用で？まさかお人形さん買いに来たってわけでもあるまいに。
I know what they want, and it's not a toy. It's probably not me either. They want Satoshi-kun. They looked at Satoshi-kun and he seemed a bit uncomfortable. The other 3 cops loosely surround us to prevent our escape.
北条さん、実はですね、ちょいと伺いたいお話がありまして。
何それ？任意同行ってやつ？サトシ君、こんなのに付き合う必要ないよ。行こう。
I pushed on his shoulder, but he just stood there looking pale and bewildered. Bewildered? No, he actually looked resigned. Then I recalled Sis's mistake. It's obvious that he killed his aunt from the circumstances. You don't even have to look at the crime scene. How could Mion have failed to create an alibi? That stupid Mion must have spoken to the police without making anything up at all. She must have not told them that she knew where Satoshi-kun was. If she'd done anything, the villagers wouldn't work to help her. It's just a matter of time until the police uncovered Satoshi-kun's complete lack of an alibi. The police were trying to corner him and lead him to confess. I looked at Satoshi-kun's face once again. He looked like a dead man. He probably didn't know he could refuse to be interrogated. If he was taken to the station and grilled by Oishi, he'd confess in a minute. Somebody had to protect him. Nobody had ever been there for him. I had to step up now. And she's actually right. Like, if they don't actually have a case and arrest him, they want to question him. They're trying to pressure him into a confession. He should not be able to talk to police without a representation or a lawyer. But again, I don't know exactly how the law works in Japan. Are they allowed to question juveniles without their parents or a lawyer present? Because in America, you really can't. But they could try and find a way around it by not doing a formal questioning, but just asking questions. Basically doing an interrogation, but in a way that seems a little like unofficial. And then they capture everything they say and use it against them. But how? Would it be possible to alter what Mion had already told them, saying it was a mistake? And then it wasn't going to work. If I had more time, I'd come up with an excellent idea. But I didn't have that much time at all. To pressure him, the cops were drawing near. The Satoshi-kun must have felt intimidated. He might end up turning himself in due to the pressure while I'm stuck trying to come up with something. I have to do something now. I have to say something. Otherwise, Satoshi-kun might give in. I have to save him. Oishi drew near. Satoshi-kun fell back.
大して時間は取らせませんから、そんな怖がらないでください。
It won't take much time. He just said it. He just said he wouldn't let him out if he's caught him now. Satoshi-kun, don't give in. If you give in now, everything you've been working for will be ruined. Satoshi-kun looked like he was about to at his breaking point. Oishi was clearly aware of it. Oishi smirked, held out his arm to grab Satoshi-kun's shoulder. I felt electrified when I saw that. That hand shouldn't be allowed to touch Satoshi-kun. The moment Oishi touched his shoulder, he'd give in. He'd go to the police station and confess everything.
サトシ君にアリバイがあるか知りたいわけですよね。
Oishi turned his face toward me, his hand left hanging in the air. I wasn't very prepared for this. I just had to stop Oishi no matter what. I only needed to gain some time. It didn't really matter what I said.
そうですよ。北条聡さんのアリバイが知りたいんです。私たちの捜査がまずいからなのかな。犯行の時間帯にどうしても北条さんのアリバイが見つけられないんですよ。仕方ないから、恥を忍んでご本人に直接そのあたりをお伺いしようかと思いましてね。
I wonder if she's gonna go down the route of like, he was with me. We were doing stuff, you know? Like, that they're off like making out or something.
そんなの本人に聞く必要ないです。私がアリバイ証明しますから。
ありゃ、そりゃなら助かるな。あの晩園崎さんが神社にいて、お祭りの最後まで過ごしていたことはすでにあなたからも聞いているし、そのあなたが、そこで北条さんとも一緒だったと言ってくれるなら、一番楽なんですがね。
This is a trap, though. He's already confirmed that she was there and confirmed with other witnesses. And he also confirms to those witnesses that he wasn't there. So if she tries to claim he was there, he's gonna be like, that's not gonna work.
でもあんた、以前そのあたりをお聞きしたとき、北条さんのことは一言も言ってませんよね。実はいましてって、今頃おっしゃるおつもりで？祭り会場の誰一人、北条さんを見ていないのに、あなただけは見ていたとそうおっしゃるおつもりで？
そうです。私と一緒にいました。それで十分です。
あなたが仲良しのお友達と終始一緒にいたのは分かっているし、私も会場で実際にお見かけしています。
I wonder if he knows that Shion exists yet or not. He knows later that she does, but not yet. Maybe.
それでも一緒にいたとおっしゃるわけで
He's laughing, but his eyes aren't laughing.
そいつはちょっと苦しくない？ん？
Oishi approached me with a creepy smile. Was he teasing me because my excuse sounded funny? I didn't think so. He was frustrated due to being interrupted when he was about to catch a big fish.
祭り会場でずっと一緒に遊んでたのに、すっかり忘れてて今頃になって思い出したと、そうおっしゃるおつもり？
This is odd. Normally, in a good interrogation, you wouldn't be feeding people like guesses because it can sometimes, especially if people are desperate, you can kind of like inadvertently persuade them to tell you a lie because they're pressured and they don't know what else to say. But at the same time, I think he might be trying to do that anyway.
園崎美音さん。
I did get a little scared, but I couldn't stop myself. I could save Satoshi-kun if I revealed my real identity. I was aware of the risk. Grandma would certainly capture me if I revealed it. I didn't think of the consequences after that. Notebook, page 27. So that where she says, I'm... Oh my gosh!
私、ミオンじゃないですし。
Look at that! It's so similar. That really makes me wonder. Was it Shion or Mion when it was Keiichi? I thought that was Mion pretending to be Shion at the time. But maybe not. I don't know. This is trippy. It's trippy seeing this again.
だからもともと綿流しになんか行ってません。
あ
サトシ君とは綿流しの晩は沖宮のファミレスでずっとおしゃべりしてました。エンジェルモートって店ですので、どうぞ店長にも確認を取ってください。
Oishi was still smirking, but apparently felt confused.
あんた、何を言ってるの？あんたミオンじゃないなら誰なわけ？
Also, point out here, she's not dressed up as Shion at all. As Mion at all. This is like Shion. So yeah, the art's like intentionally very similar, but like, it's interesting. Interesting.
園崎、シオンです。ミオンの双子の妹です。初めてお会いしますね。こんにちは。
Satoshi's like, his mind must be exploding. He was like about to be called out for being a murderer. He knew the gig was up. And now, this girl isn't actually Mion? Oishi looked perplexed, like he didn't believe what I'd said. He frowned.
園崎ミオンさんに双子の妹がいたなんて初めて知りましたよ。あんた、大人をからかってんの？
からかってなんかないですよ。どうぞ戸籍でも何でも調べてみてください。それとも、お姉を呼んで二人で並んでみせれば信じます？
All the cops look bewildered now.
園崎、シオンさん？
はい。シオンですが。
あんたにもちょっと来てもらってもいいですかね？
No, I don't have to and I won't.
あんたが園崎シオンさんで、北条さんと一緒におられたって言うんなら、あんたにも話を聞かせてもらいたいもんです。
She knows her rights, so.
ええ、望むところです。お手柔らかによろしくお願いいたします。
The cops gathered their car and started discussing something. Looked like they never expected this to happen. I hope to be able to fake Satoshi-kun's alibi for at least a little while. It shouldn't be too difficult to talk to Sis about this, then forge up an alibi together.
サトシ君、何を聞かれても、エンジェルモートで私とおしゃべりをして過ごしていたと言い張ってください。私が何とかしますから。何を聞かれても、よく覚えていないとか。サトシ君なら下手なことは言わず、黙り込んだ方が無難かもです。
You don't realize what you've done. You've just nuked his brain. Satoshi-kun wore a startled expression. Though I was telling him something important, he'd apparently decided not to listen.
サトシ君、聞いてます？ここでしっかりしないと、刑事たちの思うツボです。
He must have been feeling deceived. No wonder. I just confessed I wasn't Mion, but his twin sister. Her twin sister. Really had been deceiving him.
怒ってます？
なんで？
騙してて。
Satoshi-kun started laughing. I didn't know why he'd laugh, because he wasn't the type of person who would laugh in order to hide something.
たまに教室のミオンと話が食い合わないことがあったから違和感は感じてたんだ。やっとわかったよ。
怒らないでくれるんですか？騙してたこと。
Satoshi-kun looked puzzled. It was like he didn't know whether he should be upset about it or not. Maybe he was only pretending to be that way?
はじめまして。じゃないんだよね。
はい、そうなります。
そっか。シオンってどう書くの？
詩を読むの詩に音でシオンです。
シオン。いい名前だね。
Oh, you gotta melt her oh.
じゃあお二人さん、すみませんが署までご同行願いますかね。粉末でよければコーヒーか紅茶かくらいは選べますよ。
Dang. It's not gonna end well, but I'm actually kind of curious how this is gonna end, because Satoshi apparently vanishes after this, so why? Part of me almost wants to guess that, like, he gets vanished by Mion, like Shion, to hide him, right? Like, Kasai, like, talked to him, like, here, take him away and hide him. Absentee present, covered for a murder. But it's like, if that happened, why would she act so crazy later? Like, did Satoshi really vanish? Like, it feels like he does end up vanishing and leaving her behind. But it feels like it might not be, which is like, it's so nice, but it's just not true. All right, let's see the new tip and then we're done. Glad I held out. I still feel awful, but I'm ready to be done. But notebook page 29. Either Satoshi-kun was smart or very lucky. Or maybe it wasn't him. The police found nothing at the crime scene to indicate his involvement in the murder. Yet Satoshi-kun was still the prime suspect. Considering his home environment, he had a strong enough motive. He had no alibi. The police had everything other than physical evidence. Although that can be a clincher. Like, you can still win because physical evidence is basically like the key. It wasn't surprising that Oishi took a chance. He probably didn't expect me to step in, but what did was too little to avert his suspicion of Satoshi-kun. Oishi believes that Satoshi-kun did it. He was watching for Satoshi-kun to fall apart and confess. That's what both Oishi and I were thinking. But that hypothesis was destroyed later on. I'll not talk about it now. But Oishi's theory will be disproven, and the police will be thrown into shock. A question comes to mind. That is, who saved Satoshi-kun? I can only think the possibility the Sonozaki family invented the culprit. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Is that the random person who apparently confessed to it was like a plant. But why? Why would they do that? And if they are protecting Satoshi, where did Satoshi go? Why doesn't he come back? That's the really wild stuff, because I don't know why Satoshi would abandon Satoko if he is alive and out there, let alone Shion. I mean, maybe I could understand abandoning Shion, because maybe he never had feelings for Shion/Mion anyway, but it still seems odd, right? So something else seems to be happening here. I just don't know why. Maybe he gets vanished by the Sonozakis, and then and then when the police are getting too close to discovering what truly happened to Satoshi, maybe they orchestrate the other confession to kind of like make them stop looking into it. And then that also might explain why Shion gets so like dogged about like understanding what's like the hidden secrets of the Sonozaki family. Why she was so like, when she all like kind of like pseudo psycho mode when like someone brought up Satoshi and she's like, "You really think he vanished?" Because she seems super genuinely upset there. So maybe the Sonozaki family is gonna vanish Satoshi and essentially kill him, and she's not gonna understand why or how. And maybe they're gonna hold that secret over her head as a way to control her, which is why we see her kind of operating more freely in the future. Is because she's allowed to kind of like be herself and attend school again, but she's also directly under Oryu's thumb, and so she can't cause any more problems. Interesting. All right. Well, we're done here for tonight, though. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your patience with me as I'm like sneezing and coughing and just trying to keep myself together. I'm gonna go sleep. It's gonna be wonderful, but I need a break. And hopefully, unfortunately, I'm probably going to be trying to record tomorrow for Trails, and that means I'm probably going to be just again. So, sorry about that, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. I certainly am happy to have you here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and my rambling and craziness and the lack of remembering of critical names I know, but couldn't think of. Because that's just how this rolls. But thank you for your patience. I hope you enjoyed and hope you're here for next week's episode. But until the next video you're watching me, I'll see me in next. I'll see you there.